It's the battle for the Black Diamond Trophy, West Virginia versus Virginia Tech. It'll take place Thursday, September 22nd at 7:30 p.m. in Blacksburg, Virginia at Lane Stadium and will air on ESPN. Are you ready for the game? If you're not, I'm here to get you ready. So pull up a chair, sit back, relax, and let me serve you up this shot of top shelf college football content. What is up, college sports fans, fellow members of Mountaineer Nation? This is Coos, and welcome into another edition of Coos' Corner. Pull up a chair and get ready because you're getting a double shot of college football knowledge because I'm joined by the one and only Marcus Dean from the 304 podcast. What is up, Marcus?
Coos? Hey, buddy. How you doing tonight?
Doing great, man. Glad to have you on.
I appreciate you inviting me on. Thanks for the invite.
Not a problem. Go ahead and tell everybody where they can find you at.
So as far as the 304 Athletics, you can find us on Facebook and YouTube. The search 304 Podcast. On the podcast, you can find us talking about NFL football. We break down the game of the week with Puck's Picks. Then we have our own teams that we cover. Sam the Man, he covers the fellow Mountaineers. And we have a deal with Tennessee. I cover Tennessee. But, you know, as you see, I'm an ACC guy, but I just cover Tennessee for our 304 athletic sites. But yeah, folks, go and check us out. We're, right here on YouTube and Facebook at the 304 podcast, and on Twitter, 304 Athletics. Just check us out. We'd love to have everybody along, and we can't thank Coos enough for bringing us on to do a little simulcasting, so to say.
I hear you. Yeah, absolutely. I've been looking forward to having Marcus on, and just looking for the right opportunity. Really, anytime I wanted to touch on some ACC stuff, I know he's an ACC guru. So,
yep.
And I thought, what better time to do it than West Virginia is playing an ACC team, and not only that, it's their rival, the Virginia Tech Hokies. So I'm gonna start out by kind of giving the odds for the game, like I usually do. ESPN has West Virginia as a 63% chance to win, Virginia Tech at a 37% chance to win. Vegas also favoring West Virginia slightly. West Virginia at -2.5. The over/under on the game is 52. So what do you think about those odds and that spread there, Marcus Dean?
It's about right. I mean, it's where I'd expect it to be. We'll get into it a little bit later in the broadcast on how Virginia Tech's offense doesn't have the quite firepower, but their defense can hold their own. We'll talk about that a little bit later on.
Right.
But as far as the odds are pretty favorable. I mean, with it being at Lane Stadium on a Thursday night, the Terror Dome, that might give the Vegas to swing a little bit, but only time will tell.
Right. I was actually kind of surprised that ESPN had West Virginia favored at 60%. I felt like that was higher than what I was anticipating. The -2.5 doesn't really surprise me that much because that's kind of a gimme almost.
Yeah.
But or a pick 'em, I should say. But the 60% surprised me.
Yeah.
I guess it's because Tech kind of, I don't want to say struggled, but they didn't look all that great against Wofford this past week. And whereas West Virginia put up 65, I think West Virginia's offense, which, like you said, we'll get into that breaking down each side of the ball, but I think West Virginia's offense has a lot of people excited about what they can do.
Right.
So let's go ahead and start getting into now. I'm going to go over some team stats to kind of give everybody an idea what we're talking about here with these offenses and defenses. When you look at points per game, you've got West Virginia at 46 points a game, which actually is one of the best in the country. They're tied for 11th in the nation in scoring offense. Virginia Tech's only putting up 23.7 a game. Points allowed per game, West Virginia's at 33.3. Virginia Tech at 12.3, which is just fantastic. I mean, you look at Tech's defense, I've got them at 5th in the country in total defense and tied for 16th nationally in scoring defense. So you're looking at strength on strength here with West Virginia's powerful offense against Virginia Tech's powerful defense. So it's going to be an interesting matchup. Total yards, you got West Virginia 513 a game, Virginia Tech at 364. Yards allowed, West Virginia at 327.7, Virginia Tech only 201. So that's just some brief overall stats for everybody. And then Marcus, what do you have to say about those stats and First,
Well,
I tell you what, just talk about Virginia Tech's defense for us.
Now, Virginia Tech's defense is led by Dax Hollyfield. Dax Hollyfield is the Mike middle linebacker. He is the heart and soul of that defense. Led by Marnie Chapman in the back into things. They kind of run the defense, the front and the back. You got Noel Pollard on the defensive line. You got Mario Kendricks on the defensive line, and Josh Fuga on the defensive line that really gets after the quarterbacks. So, and in turn, Virginia Tech's defense is, like you said, in the top 5 nationally, even though they haven't played, a top tier team yet. I mean, Boston College was what I thought would be, a top tier team, but turned out to be not very good at all. I mean, I was kind of surprised by that performance, but when you give up 8 sacks, I mean, you're going to have that type of performance.
Right. Do you think this defense, their defensive performance so far, how much of that are you giving to Brent Pry credit for, or do you think it's just credit to the players they've got on the field from last season?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's Brent Pry because Brent Pry is calling the defensive plays. I think Brent Pry is doing a heck of a job right now, calling plays and getting people in the right position and finally finding players that fit schematically on the defensive side of the ball. When it terms to where Dax has been playing middle linebacker his entire career, but he's played outside linebacker and not been a key role where he can kind of command and stay there in the middle and kind of spy and kind of go attack and everything like that, or drop back into coverage. So, I mean, with their defense now, I mean, just under 3 games, I mean, vastly improved from last season, even they bring back 90% of the defense that they had.
Right. Yeah, and speaking of Dax Hollyfield, this guy, I remember him from last year when I was breaking this last year's game down. I remember him being one of their top guys, and he's doing it again. He's got 23 total tackles already this season. He has a sack, a forced fumble, and 2 fumble recoveries already.
Yep.
So, I mean, this guy's he's just all over the field. I mean, he's the kind of guy you want at the linebacker spot.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's a menace on defense, and he's their heart and soul and their captain of the defense. So, West Virginia has to be ready and expect exotic looks. I mean, they're going to show things they haven't shown yet to West Virginia. This,
Sure.
In my opinion, this would be one of the best. This would be the second best defense they played outside of Pittsburgh.
Right. Yeah, and I'm expecting it to be. I watched a little bit of their highlights from the Boston College game. They like to disguise their pressures. They like to bring pressure a lot. It seems like, especially off the edge. And they were able to get to Boston College's quarterback a lot, like you said.
Yeah.
And look, I don't know a whole lot about Boston College and how good their offensive front is, but if West Virginia's offensive line doesn't play their A game, it could be a long night for JT Daniels.
Yeah, it could be.
Now, what players do you think West Virginia needs to look out for on the offensive side for the Hokies?
Well, really, I mean, the offense is kind of being retooled. Keyshawn King is our home run hitter in the backfield. He's been banged up a little bit, so hopefully he'll be good to go. Jalen Holston is another good, solid running back that we have. And Chance Black's another. They've been kind of rotating them in. But King is your home run hitter. He got a little banged up in the Boston College game. He did have a long run against Boston College for a touchdown. Now, and as far as the pass catchers, their Swiss Army knife, as they call him, Connor Blumberg, can line up at anywhere over the field. He can line up in the slot. He can run up as an H-back. He'll spread you out as a wide receiver. And he'll even, because he's a former quarterback, he'll even, take a trick play and, throw, pass or something like that, of that, not something like that. He's a very key player. And Caleb Stewart's going to be the key because he is their ultimate down threat, down the field threat. If Caleb Stewart is healthy, West Virginia's defense is going to have to play much better on the back end.
Yeah, well, and that makes me nervous because if that's probably West Virginia's weak point in their defense is their defensive secondary. They've got a lot of new faces back there, and as we saw them struggle mightily in the Kansas game to cover Kansas. Now, that being said, I think Kansas has turned out to be a lot better than what we thought.
Oh, absolutely.
They made Houston's defense look just as silly as ours. So
yeah,
and Houston had one of the top defenses in the nation last year. So it's not like Houston's defense is a slouch.
No,
and they were bringing most of their team back too.
Yeah, and I was surprised by that. Even though you think, hey, Kansas, they got they're good for an upset or two a year, but this Kansas team might be looking at a bowl game this year if they keep on.
Right. What about wide receiver Caleb Smith? What can you tell us about him?
6'2", 6'3". He's their home run hitter. As far as he can take the top off with his speed, but he's also been pretty limited. He's been banged up since the end of last season. He's kind of fighting through injuries. But if he's 100% healthy, look for him to go downfield, and he is their, great pass catcher with the one arm stuff and going down the field. And also look for this new number 85. I can't remember his name right off the top of my head. He's escaping my name. He broke out in the Wofford game as a true freshman, and he was catching everything that was thrown to him. And also watch out for Temple transfer Jaden Blue as he's starting to come into his own.
Yeah, I remember that name actually rings a bell. I did a video on some transfer portal receivers that West Virginia should look at in the offseason, and I think his name came up.
Yeah.
That guy's a good player. But Caleb Smith, the reason I asked about him is it's showing right here as he's Virginia Tech's. He actually he's only caught 8 passes, but they're for 131 yards and a touchdown. So he can, like you said, he's definitely a big play threat. So I hope, and unfortunately, we've got Charles Woods, our top defensive back, that got hurt in the Pitt game. He's still out. They don't know how much longer he's going to be out, but he will be out for this game. So it's going to be up to these. I don't want to say young guys because we've got some transfers, but some guys that are new faces to this team and to this defense. Hopefully, they've fixed the things that they weren't able to do at Kansas.
Right.
And I think that staff is also making some changes back there too, as far as moving some guys around, maybe trying some new guys at different positions. So that hopefully will help. But you mentioned King, the running back. Has there been any word on his status for this game yet?
No, not as now. I've yet to see anything official come out. All they keep saying he was just banged up in the Boston College game after he had that long run. They said he was fighting a hip injury. So I mean, we know how after playing sports, how a hip injury can be very unpredictable.
Right.
So I mean, we shall see. I mean, I hope he's up to speed because they're really going to need him the show up and show off big in this game because he was averaging anywhere between 4 to 5 yards a carry.
Right.
And he did have that home run, long 65-yard touchdown against Boston College. So he is definitely the threat.
Yeah. Yeah, they asked Coach Brown, West Virginia media asked Coach Brown about him in the press conference today, and Coach Brown said he did not play in the Wofford game.
He didn't.
But they are preparing for him to play just in case, because he is their big play guy. Now, last but not least, we got to touch on the quarterback position. West Virginia guy Grant Wells, transfer from Marshall. What's he shown so far this season?
Inconsistency, in my opinion. The first game of the season, he came out looking just like a gunslinger. He wasn't settled. I think he had some bad passes in that game against Old Dominion, and it ultimately ended up costing Virginia Tech the game against Old Dominion. But he'd come back and he'd settle down and looked much, much better against Boston College. And this past game, he was really on the mark, in terms of his passes. I know it's Wofford, but still, you still got to go out there and you still got to execute. I mean, even though they're a smaller division school, but you still got to execute. And he threw for over 330 yards in that game, a couple touchdown passes. I don't know if he has the Hackle and Jackal type situation where he's either one extreme or the other. But I mean, if he's on, he could be a threat, but he could also be off. So he's just you don't know what you're going to get.
Well, I know looking at his numbers, I was looking at his numbers in the offseason actually when I saw he was in the portal. He threw a lot of picks at Marshall too. So that was one thing because I was kind of thinking maybe West Virginia would go after him. And then when I saw his stats, I'm like, well, that's basically what Jarrett Dagey was doing last year.
Yeah.
So I'm like, maybe, and of course, fortunately, we ended up going out and getting somebody even better in JT Daniels, who I'll talk about in a minute. But just to look at the stats real quick for Grant Wells, for everybody listening, he's 63 out of 96 passing for 651 yards, 4 touchdowns and 4 picks. And the running back King that we mentioned earlier has carried the ball 23 times for 175 yards and a touchdown. And keep in mind, he did not even play in the last game. So
Yeah.
I'm sure had he not been injured, those numbers would be even better.
Yeah.
So there's the guys that West Virginia has to key on for Hokies on the offensive side. We've talked about the defense. Now, for West Virginia, obviously, we'll start out with the defense first, since we started off defense for Tech. For West Virginia, obviously, you got Dante Steele. I mean, he's the guy that could potentially give Grant Wells some fits. He's already got 2.5 sacks on the season to lead the team, and I got a feeling he's going to have a big game because it seems like the bigger the opponent, the better game Dante Steele has. I mean, he really showed up against Pitt. Did not show up as much against Kansas, but I think a lot of that was scheme related. Kansas was scheming to basically keep West Virginia's D-line out of the game.
Right.
They were getting rid of the ball so quick that the D-line didn't have time to operate. But I do think Dante's going to have a big game in this game. At least that's my anticipation. And also you got Lee Cobb at the middle linebacker position, who's leading the team in tackles right now. He has 18 total tackles, which doesn't sound like a whole lot, but, this last game against Towson, they started subbing, in the second quarter, basically. So I'm not sure that you can take those stats. You got to take it in context there. He's not played 3-4 games yet.
Right.
But plus he's new. I mean, he's still trying to figure out this defense.
Yeah.
He's been inconsistent at times, but he is leading the team in tackle, so it shows you that he is around the football, which is important to play that middle linebacker spot.
Now, that Alston kid's what concerns me on the defensive line too.
Oh yeah, Taj. Yeah, he actually lost his starting spot last game to Sean Martin, the Bluefield.
Oh wow, okay.
Now whether whether that remains true for the Tech game, I don't know. But he's the one who committed that late game roughing the passer penalty against Kansas that potentially cost us a game. So I think that was kind of stuck in Neil Brown's craw a little bit, and
yeah,
I guess that, and plus Sean Martin had been playing really well. So
yeah, I mean he looks good. I mean he has. Does he have like a club going on right now? Because I thought I seen him had like a club or something.
He did in the Pitt game, but it's off now.
Okay.
Yeah. He got that club off after the first game, and he's played a lot better. He played really well. He was actually the only D lineman that really played well in the Kansas game, in my opinion. Of everybody, he was the only one that really you heard his name more than anybody else's on the day. Yeah. He was getting in the backfield and making some plays and at least wreaking some havoc anyway. But then as far as the secondary goes, somebody's going to have to step up for West Virginia, whether it be Wesley McCormick, the kid from James Madison, whether it be Rashad Ajayi from Colorado State, one of these younger guys, freshman, maybe Jacoby Spell, somebody's going to have to step up and start making some plays. They've been beating coverage way too much. That's why the Smith kid kind of worries me a little bit. And I know Grant Wells can spin it. And I know he can throw the ball pretty well.
He's also very mobile too.
Yeah, he is. And that shocked me because I didn't realize that about him until I watched a few of their highlights. He can move around back there. So that's something else I'm concerned about. And on offense for West Virginia, obviously you got JT Daniels at quarterback, 67 out of 104, 753 yards, 6 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. You've got C.J. Donaldson, the true freshman running back, who's the talk of the town right now for West Virginia.
Out of nowhere.
Absolutely. They weren't even recruiting him. They actually were recruiting his teammate, Travius Lathan, in high school. And Neil Brown and one of the assistants, I don't remember which one it was watching the game. And they just happened to see C.J. Donaldson. I was like, man, this kid can play. So they ended up offering him as well.
Yeah.
And, of course, West Virginia was he only had 2 offers. West Virginia and Tulane were the only 2 offers he had from FBS schools.
Oh, wow.
Believe it or not. Yeah. So West Virginia, I guess.
They found a diamond in the rough right there.
They did. And he was he actually came to West Virginia to be a tight end originally. But, they lost Lynn J. Dixon to the transfer portal because of, he got in some, I think, small field trouble or whatever. And then they said, we're going to try C.J. Donaldson at running back. And if he doesn't work, we'll go find somebody in the transfer portal.
Right.
Lo and behold, he's now leading the team in rushing after 3 games with 29 carries, 274 yards, 6 touchdowns. And then at wide receiver, you got Bryce Ford Wheaton, who so far is putting up just uncanny numbers right now, one of the top receivers in college football right now. He's caught the ball 24 times for 296 yards and 4 touchdowns already. and I predicted before the season started that Bryce Ford Wheaton was going to have a really big breakout year.
Mm-hmm.
And so far, he has not disappointed in that regard. So those are the key players for West Virginia. Obviously, the offensive line is going to be key in this game because of that Virginia Tech pass rush. Speaking of offensive lines, Marcus, I want to get your take on what's Virginia Tech's offensive line looking like right now.
Virginia Tech's offensive line's not bad. I mean, they've kind of patched together. Joe Rudolph came in from Wisconsin and kind of revamped everything on the offensive line. They have one of their super seniors, Silas Janzi. They're kind of anchoring the offensive line with Jesse Hansen, a local product here from Lord Botetourt High School, just right up the road here.
Mm-hmm.
But no, their offensive line's pretty solid. They're not going to wow you, but they're solid. They're not going to give up very many penalties. If the pre-snap penalties are not going to, blow you away and open giant holes and everything like that, they're gonna fight with you in the trenches. It's gonna be a heavyweight fight in the trenches.
Are they experienced? Is it an experienced offensive line or a young offensive line?
It's a mix of both. You have the left side with Silas Janzi and Parker Moore. They're kind of your upperclassmen. Jesse Hansen's kind of a redshirt sophomore. So they kind of got a mix of youth and experience in there. But they rotate so many offensive linemen. It's hard to keep track on who all's getting snaps.
Well, that's good. Depth is important, and that's one thing West Virginia has not had yet since Neil Brown's been here. They opted to go young in 2020 with their offensive line and build it over time, and that's caused some growing pains, obviously. But this year, they're supposed to be a lot better. Still some youth up there,
yeah.
But it's all guys who've played a lot, and they are improving. They're still not, like you said, they won't wow you just yet, and there is some inconsistencies there. But the talent's there, and I think with each game they're getting a little bit better and a little bit better. So hopefully they can put it together and start being more consistent. Let's look at keys to victory real quick. First, let's look at keys to victory. We'll start with West Virginia since I've already got it on the screen there. But for me, and I'll get your opinion in a second, but for me, for West Virginia, I think their key to victory is how well can they block up front. They've got to control that Virginia Tech pass rush, and if they can do that, I think our offense has a huge day, and I think we put up a lot of points. Now, on the defensive side, I think it's the opposite. I think West Virginia needs to have a great day up front, and I think we need to stop the run. I think if we can stop the run and force Virginia Tech to be one-dimensional and force Grant Wells to beat us, I think he's prone to turn the ball over some. If he's to do that, if we force him to do that, and maybe we can get a pick or two. What do you think of the keys to victory are for the Mountaineers?
Just like you said, the West Virginia needs to establish a run with C.J. Donaldson, Tony Mathis Jr. They need to establish a run. The one thing is they're not going to be able to take the top off the deep with their deep ball with our experience on the back end. They're not going to be able to, play pitch and catch with the deep ball like JT Daniels likes to throw. It's going to be very competitive. And JT Daniels we both know isn't very mobile. So he's going to have to get the ball out quick like he did against Pitt in order to survive.
Yeah. And I will say this, our receivers have looked good so far, other than, they did have some drops in the Pitt game, but ever since then they've been doing a better job.
Yeah.
They have been doing a pretty good job, especially Bryce Ford Wheaton, of catching the ball in traffic. Bryce Ford Wheaton at one time was leading the nation in contested catches, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't looked at that stat recently, but but I am concerned because I don't know how good one thing that I've been concerned about with our receivers more than anything is they don't seem to do a good job of getting open sometimes.
Right.
Especially when they play a good defensive secondary.
Yeah, because Virginia Tech's gonna play that press 2, cover 2 on the back end of things. They're not gonna be Narduzzi like they put your corners on an island and just kind of. They're gonna have help over the top with the safeties and Dorian Strong and Chamari Connor. They're gonna have help on the back end and overthrown balls. You're gonna have to hold your breath if he has an overthrown ball.
I got you. Because they're ball hawks back there, you say?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, as far as keys to victory for Virginia Tech, what are you thinking there?
It's going to be tough I'll be honest, it's going to be tough for Virginia Tech to win this game. But they're going to have to keep the score in the 20s in order to be able to win this game. They can't let West Virginia score more than 30 points because they're not going to be able to score that much to stay score for score. They're going to have to rely on their defense. Their defense is going to have to keep them in the game, and our quarterback is going to have to do just enough in order to take advantage of some, mistakes on the back end of West Virginia. He's going to have to take advantage of the young secondary. Keyshawn King's got to be healthy. He's got to hit a long run or two in order to keep him honest. But Virginia Tech, that would be their big key to victory is Grant Will's got to take care of the ball. Don't turn the ball over. Offensive line's going to have to hold up a little bit longer. But, don't play like a gunslinger like you did against Old Dominion. Manage the game, manage everything. Rely on your defense like you did against Boston College.
Yeah, and that is one thing I will say for Virginia Tech fans out there that you can, I guess, take some comfort in. West Virginia has not been good, even like going back to last year. West Virginia's defense has not been good at forcing turnovers. We've been one of the worst in the country at that, at least one of the worst in the Big 12 anyway. Just right now we're -2 in turnover margin, which I actually saw Virginia Tech was the same. Just our defense does not do a good job of doing that. That's one thing they were trying to focus on this season so far. They've done okay, but it's been all fumble recoveries.
Right.
No interceptions as of yet. I hope that changes this Thursday night, but we'll see. So with that said, I think I agree with you on Virginia Tech's keys to victory. I think they're going to have to protect the football. You said they're going to have to keep in the 20s, man. I see us West Virginia fans. We're saying we don't know if our defense can keep you guys in the 20s. Their defense has not really looked all that great yet. They looked okay against Pitt, but they didn't look great against Pitt. But they played good enough to win the game.
Mm-hmm.
Were it not for turnovers, West Virginia wins that game. Kansas State didn't look good at all. Obviously, it's Towson, so you don't really know what to take from that.
Right.
So, I guess the best answer is the verdict's still out on our defense. We don't really know how good they are yet.
Right.
Because I think the Kansas game might be an anomaly because of Kansas's offense and the scheme they run and how good they are at it. And then, of course, Pitt being a rivalry game,
everything goes out the window.
Exactly. So, and that's the same thing here. Obviously the game being in Blacksburg makes me nervous. But that trip to Pitt should help them be prepared for this environment, I would hope. That's one good thing I can take comfort in is the fact that these guys are battle tested on the road already. So I don't think they're going to be surprised by the environment.
I'm going to have to disagree with that one. This is going to be a lot more rowdier than what you've seen at Pitt. This is going to be unlike something you've never seen on a Thursday night in Blacksburg. There's always some kind of magic, always some kind of something always happens in Thursday nights at Blacksburg. It's, you'll see it once you go live. You'll understand what I mean.
Yeah.
And literally the stadium is vibrating.
Right. Well, I can't wait, man. Because like I was telling Marcus before we started, I've never been to Lane. I only live an hour, but I've never been to a game. Lane Stadium. This will be my first time. I'm looking forward to it. One, the environment's going to be awesome. It's just going to be a great college football atmosphere. We've got a rivalry game. I get to see my Mountaineers take the field, obviously, which is always good. And then, hey, I'm a metalhead, so hearing Enter Sandman blaring over through the stadium, man, I'm going to be as fired up as the players. They'll have a hard time keeping me off the field, man. It's going to take me back to my high school playing days, man.
Oh, gosh. Hey, speaking of our old high school playing days, we're 2-2.
Woohoo! Best record they've had in how long, Marcus? Best. I told somebody the other day on social media that I went to the Kansas of high school football in West Virginia.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
Oh, man. All right, let's do our score predictions. I want to send it to you first. What are you predicting for this game? What do you think?
With everything being said, with the spread, I think this is going to be a really close game. I think, some outlets are saying, West Virginia is going to take, win handily. Some are saying Virginia Tech because of the home field. I think it's going to come down to a great kicking game, and it's going to come down to the defense of Virginia Tech. If Virginia Tech's defense can hold, don't do anything stupid, bend not break, offense gets some breaks, maybe a turnover or two, that is the only way that I can see Virginia Tech winning this game. But with that being said, with a little bit of Lane Stadium magic, I'm going 34-31 Virginia Tech.
Wow. Funny story. I was asked to do there's a Virginia Tech blogger named Treadmill Horse, by the way. I'm going to plug his stuff. Treadmill Horse, a Virginia Tech blogger who reached out to me and asked me to do some Q&A for him. The timing wasn't great because I did it. I actually filled out the questionnaire about 1 or 2 days after the Kansas game, so I was not feeling good about West Virginia at all when I answered those questions. So, but anyway, at the end of the day, that's the exact score I picked in my prediction was 34-31 Virginia Tech. However, I've since changed my mind a little bit. After West Virginia played against Towson, and I know it's Towson, but we did score. We scored 65. Scoring 65 points is not easy on anybody. I don't care what level they play. And our defense didn't give up anything. The 7 points was a special teams touchdown. So our defense did what they were supposed to do.
Right.
And I feel good about I feel better about where we are now than I did, 2 weeks ago or a week and a half ago. So I do think West Virginia can win the game. I think they will win the game. I think it'll be really close. Like you said, it's a rivalry. I think West Virginia keeps the Black Diamond Trophy in Morgantown for who knows how long, because I don't know when they'll play again.
I don't either. I think it's just off or something.
They should be playing every year, but that's a whole nother discussion. But I think West Virginia wins the game. I think we win by about a touchdown, probably about 34-27, 35-28, somewhere in there. I do think Tech will put some points on us just because I think Grant Wells will hit a couple deep balls, probably over the top. May even get a special teams touchdown because I know Virginia Tech's really good on special teams. But I think at the end of the day, West Virginia's offense is going to be too much for Tech, and I think West Virginia wins the game 30. I'm going to say 34-27. That's my prediction.
Okay.
Which means that, so we're both taking the over, obviously, because the over-under was 52 on the game, which I thought was a little low, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, Vegas seems to know what they're talking about. So
yeah, Vegas must know something.
So anyway, so Marcus has got Virginia Tech winning 34-31. I'm taking the Mountaineers 34-27.
One of us will eat crow.
That's right. Come about 11 p.m. or 12 midnight Thursday night, we'll know who was right.
Yep.
Once again, Marcus, let all of my viewers and listeners know where they can find you.
You can find us at the 304 podcast right here on Facebook and YouTube. Also, you can find us on Twitter at the 304 Athletics. We're not very active on Twitter, but we're trying to work on that and get it more active on Twitter. But we're more active on our channel where we do different things such as Puck's Picks. We do the game of the week. Sam the Man does his Mountaineer predictions for the week, since he is our Mountaineer fan. I am the ACC guru of the channel. I do all things ACC, but I do our Tennessee picks and our Tennessee videos because we have a special relationship with the Tennessee Vols. So we do some stuff for them. And yeah, come on out and check us out. Give us a subscribe. We'd love to have you guys. And thanks for Coos for bringing us on tonight and kind of doing a little simulcast. And here was a good time.
Absolutely. And everybody, they recently hit 1,000 subs. So
yep.
But they need more, man. So go sub them up. They're doing great work over there. They've had some really cool guests on their channel. They had Tommy Bowden, the great Tommy Bowden, on their channel not long ago.
Yep.
So just go check them out, guys, over at 304 Podcast. I'll leave a link to it in the description box. So Marcus Dean, I really appreciate it again coming on.
Thank you.
And, absolutely. And everybody go check out Marcus, Sam the Man, and their team. And until next time, I got to say it. Q Country Roads.